Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Larry Elise, and on today's episode of Murder Monday, we dive into the murder of Marvin Gaye. But of course, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. If you're looking for a way to grow your audience and get more engagement with your podcast, check out Poddex today at poddex.com. Use the promo code Larry21 for 10% off your order. And now on today's topic. A household name to many, Marvin Gaye's musical talent has brought him world fame and earned him the nickname the Prince of Soul. Marvin was a pioneer and shaped the musical genre, paving the way for generations of artists to come. Marvin had a tough childhood and struggled with fame, but he loved his family dearly and provided for them generously. Returning from tour to care for his sick mother, Marvin and his father argued constantly. Following a verbal attack on his mother one evening, Marvin intervened physically, and his father shot him twice at point-blank range. Following Marvin's death, his sister, to whom he was very close, explained that the murder was far more complex than it seemed. Marvin, she said, knew exactly what he was doing that night. Marvin Gaye Sr. was a Christian minister who was extremely strict and physically punished all of his children. Alberta Gaye was a gentle and caring mother to Marvin Jr., his brother Frankie, and sisters Zeola and Jean. During his early years, Marvin Jr. was bullied badly by other kids. The singer later attributed this to the fact that his father was a minister and a cross-dresser, and to the family's surname. So affected was Marvin Jr. by the bullies that he added an E to the end of his surname once he was of age. As well as being bullied at school and in the neighborhood, Marvin Jr. was bullied at home too, subjected to brutal whippings by his father for trivial and often fabricated offenses. All of the family witnessed and endured similar treatment. Marvin Jr. later said that living with his father was akin to living with a king, a very peculiar, changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king. The treatment he received during his formative years had a profound effect on the younger Marvin. Ironically, it was the very strict church that gave him a reason to live. Through the church, he learned to sing and performed regularly at worship from the age of 6. As Marvin Jr. entered his teenage years, he joined singing groups with friends, much to the chagrin of his father. During this period, Marvin Jr. regularly found himself evicted at random from the family home, only to return home to a beating the next day. Despite the punishments, Marvin Jr. felt that he had no choice. Singing was his life. He once said, "If it wasn't for Mother, who was always there to console me and praise me for my singing, I think I would have been one of those child suicide cases you read about in the papers." It goes without saying that Marvin Gaye's singing career took off. I can't list all of his accolades, songs, and music accomplishments. The man was a musical genius and a pioneer. Marvin paved the way for more artists by overcoming racial prejudice, social and financial barriers to delight the world for decades. Tragically, like so many geniuses, Marvin was also a hugely troubled man who struggled with his mental health and substance abuse for much of his life. It is believed that he attempted suicide on several occasions. Marvin also married twice, divorced twice, adopted a son, Marvin III, and fathered 2 other children, Nona and Frankie. Other relationships of Marvin were not without difficulty and rumors of domestic abuse. Open partnerships and infidelity were abundant. Financially, Marvin was pursued by the IRS for unpaid taxes, and his debtors were plentiful. During what would turn out to be his last tour, Marvin's struggles only grew. Despite having maintained sobriety during the preceding period, Marvin returned to substance abuse during his tour. He'd always had an enormous dislike of touring and life on the road, added pressures to him that were simply too great. During the tour, Marvin also struggled with paranoia. Following an alleged attempt on his life, Marvin took to wearing bulletproof vests and became preoccupied with security and his own mortality. Thoughts of death were never far from Marvin's mind. It was this state of mind that the legendary singer returned home from tour and went immediately to his parents' home to care for his sick mother. Despite his own challenges, Marvin Gaye remained devoted to his mother and siblings throughout his life. Financially, they were provided for, and Marvin bought his parents a lovely home as soon as his career made that possible. A career that, ironically, his father never approved of. Marvin's mother had undergone kidney surgery and was recuperating at home when Marvin completed his tour and came to stay with her and his sisters. Marvin Sr. was out of town on business, and the family seemed content until his return in October 1983. Following the return of their father to the home, Jean and Zeola left the house. The woman felt that the conflict between their brother and father was unbearable, and their mother, Alberta, was the only one to stay. The following months in the Gramercy Place home was tumultuous. After an argument one evening, Marvin Sr. called the police and had his son removed from the house he'd bought his parents. Marvin Sr. had always maintained that if any of his children laid a hand on him, he'd kill them. So Marvin Gaye went to stay with his sister for a time. "After all, I have just one father. I want to make peace with him," he said. Not long after the stay with Jean, Marvin Gaye returned to his parents' home. The singer wanted to be close to his mother as he continued to struggle with his suicidal thoughts and paranoia. The younger Marvin was always keen to have peace with his father, too. He wanted his elder namesake to be proud of him. The family spent Christmas 1983 together, and Marvin Gaye, still battling with mental illness and substance dependence, presented his father with a Smith & Wesson gun for protection from intruders. It's heartbreaking to know that this would be the gun that Marvin Sr. would use to murder his son in a few months' time. By April 1984, Marvin Gaye was in a terrible place mentally and emotionally. Still living in his parents' home, the singer was almost unrecognizable and spent almost all of his time in his bedroom. Marvin would talk about little but his paranoid and suicidal thoughts. He would also wear odd socks, several overcoats at a time, and put his shoes on the wrong feet. A few days before his murder, Marvin's sister said that the singer had jumped from a speeding car. She believed that this was a suicide attempt, but he only sustained minor injuries. The situation at home was enormously tense, and Marvin Sr. and his son were having more heated arguments than ever. Sometimes Marvin Jr. would escape to his sister's home or go and stay with a girlfriend. The latest set of family disagreements revolved around a missing insurance certificate that Marvin Sr. believed that his wife misplaced. Mother, son, and father battled constantly. At around lunchtime on April 1st of 1984, Marvin Gaye Sr. was yelling at his wife Alberta about a missing insurance certificate. Alberta was in the bedroom of her son at the time, and Marvin Jr. shouted to his father that he should speak to his mother face to face rather than yelling up the stairs. Gaye Sr. came into Marvin's room and was immediately ordered out by his son. When his father refused to leave and continued to attack his mother verbally, Marvin Gaye Jr. snapped. Marvin the son kicked, punched, and shoved his father from the room. Alberta Gaye would later say, "Marvin hit him. I shouted for him to stop, but he paid no attention to me. He gave my husband some hard kicks." Without another word, Marvin Gaye Sr. went downstairs. A moment later, the elder man returned. With zero hesitation, Gaye Sr. walked up to his son, pointed the gun, and fired. The first bullet entered the legendary singer at a very odd angle, in through his chest and throughout his right lung, heart, diaphragm, liver, stomach, and left kidney, before coming to rest against his left flank. The bullet was fatal, and Marvin Gaye slumped to the floor. Marvin Sr. moved closer and fired on his dying son once again, as Alberta Gaye begged for her child's life to be spared. Upon realizing that her child had been murdered by her husband, Alberta Gaye ran from the room, pleading for her life. As the distraught mother ran from the home, her younger son Frankie and his wife were running towards her. The couple lived in the Gaye's guest house and had heard the shots and Alberta's screams. Frankie Gaye found his brother Marvin bleeding to death and held him in his arms. Marvin Gaye's last words to his much-loved sibling were, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I had him do it. It's good. I ran my race. There's no more left in me." The family was shocked at the implication of these words, but Jane believed that she knew exactly what her legendary brother had done. Marvin accomplished three things. He put himself out of his misery, he brought relief to Mother by finally getting her husband out of her life, and he punished Father by making certain that the rest of his life would be miserable. My brother knew just what he was doing. After his arrest, a benign tumor was discovered at the base of Marvin Gaye Sr.'s brain. Following surgery, he was evaluated and found fit to stay in trial. Alberta Gaye posted $30,000 in bail money for her husband, but she did so via an intermediary and filed for an immediate divorce. As Gaye Sr.'s injuries from the fight with his son had been well documented and levels of drugs and alcohol were found during the singer's autopsy, Marvin Gaye Sr.'s plea of voluntary manslaughter was accepted by the court. Judge Gordon Ringer sentenced Gaye to 6 years in prison, suspended, and 5 years probation. The murderer of Marvin Gaye didn't spend a single night behind bars. Alberta Gaye and the family cut Gaye Sr. from their lives. Perhaps that was justice for the musical genius. Perhaps not. Let us know your comments in the comment section below. Do you think this was murder or a suicide? Let us know. As always, give us a thumbs up if you like our video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And now on to our pod deck segment. Today's question is, why do you think people join a cult in the first place? For me, I think it's a sense of belonging, a sense of being accepted by a group of people. And I think it's probably partly due to the leader's charisma. They're able to draw people in without question. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Why do you think people join a cult? And that is what we have for this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time. Thank you.